Set 34, Part 2, Decomposing Functions. This is kind of a weird concept. They give you a composition, and they want to know what each of these, if they give you the final answer, what they're made up of, those two functions, they want to know what each one is. What is f of x? What is g of x? And for a bunch of them, there's two answers. One of them is the trivial answer, which is obvious, and they don't really care about that answer. The other is the non-trivial, not so obvious. That's the one they want. So if you look at this, f of g of x equals x squared plus 1, right? Well, that means if you do the trivial version, well, f of x would be the square root of x. F of the parentheses would be the square root of the parentheses. And since it's f composed of g of x, and g of x is, if you say it's x squared plus 1, then that would be f of that parentheses, which is x squared plus 1. And if f of x is the square root of x, that means that f composed of g of x must be the square root of the parentheses. In this case, they say the parentheses is x squared plus 1. So that would give you an answer of the square root of x squared plus 1. But that's obvious. That's trivial. They don't care about that one. They would like you to think outside the box. How else could this composition be made up? Well, it could be f of x is the square root of parentheses plus 1. And then g of x is x squared. That would give you, if you did it that way, f composed of, let's see, g of x is x squared. That means f of this parentheses would be the square root of parentheses plus 1, which would be, parentheses is now x squared plus 1. So that is the same answer, but in a non-trivial way. They're thinking outside the box. Okay, so let's look at this one here, this example. G of x is x squared plus 1, and f of g of x equals 1 over x squared plus 1. Okay? Now sometimes the answer is so obvious and it's trivial, but there's only one possibility, and you have to go with it. So in the other one, they gave you an answer. You have to find the two that it's made up of. In this case, they give you the answer, f composed of g of x, but they also give you one of the functions. The only possibility would be that f of x equals 1 over x. F of parentheses equals 1 over the parentheses. Because they tell you that g of x is x squared plus 1. So that would be f composed of g of x, which is x squared plus 1. And f composed of that, in order to get this answer, must be that f of x is 1 over x, which would give you 1 over x squared plus 1. So these are kind of these are tough. There aren't too many of them in the book, so I want you to really try and concentrate on it, but at the same time, I'm not upset if you don't get it. Now for this video, there's also an Easter egg in it. If you watch all the way to the end here, I'm going to give you plus 5 points. Oh, sorry. No, not plus 5. Plus, I think, 11 points. That's 1 for each of you that watches this video. But the more people that report the Easter egg, the less each will be. Okay? So you can't tell your friends. If you tell your friends, you're getting less points. Extra credit points. So if only one guy notices this, it's plus 11 for him. 2 guys notice it, it's plus 10 for each of you. 3 guys, plus 9. 4 guys plus 8, 5 guys plus 7, 6 guys plus 6, and so on and so forth. So the key is not to tell your friends about the Easter egg, because that means more points for you. See ya.